In this lesson, we're going to start taking all the CSS styling out of the HTML elements that we did in the last lesson, and we're going to put them somewhere else in one area, one spot where we can manage them so we don't have to go to each individual tag and manage them. But before we do that, I just want to go over a couple principles. And these principles are very important to understand. The two I want to talk about right now are the HTML and the styling of the content. HTML is written to define content. It's not meant to give any kind of design or styling to the text. So by default, when we add this inline styling here, we're styling this H1, but we're putting it inside this HTML document, which is supposed to just define the content. It's just supposed to tell the browser, hey, this is an H1. It's just supposed to tell Google, hey, this is a paragraph tag. It's just supposed to tell the user, hey, this is a link. Years ago, it was standard to mix and match HTML and styling together. And what would happen is you would have these huge bloated sites with all this inline styling, and it would just be a nightmare to have to update and to maintain because of that. But now we've learned a lot since then, and we don't do that anymore. And so let me show you what an HTML document is supposed to do. And we're going to do that by creating a new tag that we haven't looked at before in the previous course, and that is the style tag, and we have to put it in the head of an HTML document. So as you can see here, we have a typical HTML document with the head, with the title tag and all that, then the body, which is what you're looking at over here, and we're closing out the HTML. So the new tag is called style. Add that there, and then close it out. If I could spell, close it out there. So inside here, we can put all of our CSS. So just like in the CSS syntax that we learned, how we put in the selector and then those little curly brackets and then the properties and values, we can put that all inside this style tag, which again always has to be in the head of the document. Highly recommended. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So here we have an H1 tag, and down here you see from the last lesson we gave it a color of green, gave it 10 pixels of margin all the way around, a 5 pixel border all the way around, and some padding to give us some room in between here. So I need to extract that from here because I don't want this H1 to have this individually, because again, what if I have another H1 tag and now it looks completely different than this? What if I want them to be the same? I want every H1 tag to be the same. Well, I don't want to have to keep copying and pasting this into every single H1 tag. So what we do is we extract it from this tag and put it in the CSS. So using our CSS syntax, we say H1 is the selector. Let's say, hey, browser, on the H1, we're going to say the color's green, the margin's 10 pixels, etc. So let's do that. Color is green, margin is 10 pixels, the border is 5 pixels solid, and make it a kind of a dark gray. And then lastly, we have padding, which is 10 pixels. So basically what I did was, as you can see, I duplicated it here. I took all this inline styling, all the CSS, and I put it up here in the style tag to get it out of here. So watch this. I'm going to delete this style attribute now. And now doesn't that look a whole lot easier and readable? So when you go through a document or a content article or whatever, and say, hey, that's an H1 tag, you can see that a lot better than that. So now we just separated the styling from the content, from the markup, which it looks a whole lot better. It's a whole lot more usable, a whole lot more extendable, because now our every H1 has the same styling. Handy, right? So let's do that with the P tag too. So we have a P tag here in the style color red. All right, let's do that. So P tag, oops, there's our P selector. So we're saying, hey, the P tag, all the P tags are supposed to have a color red. So now we don't need this style anymore. And now that looks a whole lot nicer, much cleaner. And this anchor tag, as you can see, we have a lot of stuff in here. So let's create another. So we're saying, hey, the anchor tag, the A, and watch this, I'm just going to copy all this out of here so I don't have to retype it. Cut all that out, get rid of the style attribute. Now it's much easier to read. I'm just going to paste it all in here. And you'll notice that when I paste it in here, it's all kind of in line like that. That's fine. Just make sure there's always a semicolon. The browser doesn't care if it's on separate lines like it is here, or if it's all on one line like it is here. The browser doesn't really care. It only cares if it has semicolons to end each property. If I didn't have that semicolon, it would mess everything up. See, this browser doesn't know that this color is supposed to be green. Let's do that. So I'll just go ahead and add it to each line so it's easier to look at. All right. So now every time we create a new link, it's going to have this styling here, which is all this code right here. And let's go ahead and get rid of this too. There. So as you can see, this HTML document is a whole lot easier to read and makes a whole lot more sense with all the CSS up here. And now watch this. If I wanted to change something, so you see we have two paragraphs here, this one and this one, and I wanted the font size to be 22 pixels, it changes it for both of them. And you say, well, Rick, I only want one of them to do that. Well, in coming lessons, we're going to learn how to target, be specific and target only specific elements that we want.